A list of mania. Think less but see it grow.
Hello everybody, the Lawn Gnome is here and welcome to your June 2015 10 for 12, and as always there will be a link provided to past episodes below. It's another collab video, and today I'm really excited because of a couple of things. One, this is actually going to be an intertwining of film and books because I feel that the booktube community is so awesome and they are some of the best and most wholesome personalities out there, and I really feel that they deserve some love, and also because of the fact that I'm going to be doing this video with a very good friend of mine, Bre Faucheux. She is a self-made author. She has a couple of her pieces of work on digital device download on Amazon.com, but she also is starting to really take some time to put effort into her YouTube channel to really make it bigger and better, and someone like her is such a positive and helpful person. She has taught me a couple of things in regards to bettering myself, as vice versa. I've been helping her with her videos, and she is definitely on her way to becoming one of the better YouTubers out there. Subscribe to her channel, and there will also be a link provided for her video. And what are we talking about today? Well, as you guys know, I'm a big fan of film, but I also do like to read. I read all the Harry Potter books, I have read many Stephen King books, John Grisham books, Michael Crichton books, and I of course read all the Lord of the Rings. But there are a couple of other books in between that I always said would make great movies. And the craziest thing is, some of them have tried to become great movies, but because of a little misstep, either in the first film or maybe a few films into the saga, because of the negative responses that were gotten from these films, the sagas never continued. And that is the topic for today. Before that, I want to make something known. Some people have said to me, would The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, directed by David Fincher, be in this list? That's a good question. The answer is no, at least for me, because of the fact that, one, it was a great movie, one of Fincher's best. The only reason why it may not continue is because there's just many issues with the writing and the people who are all part of the film. There were rumors that David Fincher would direct it, not direct it. Rooney Mara wants to be in the movie. Daniel Craig was rumored to be in it as well. Now he's not on the project. It was shelved. It's back and active again. Nobody knows, and they're taking their sweet time, and there may come a day where this may not continue in America, and it's not the movie's fault. But these 10 choices are because it's the movie's fault. Number 10 is the Castor Chronicles. Remember the movie that was based on the first book in that series, Beautiful Creatures? Now, I never read the books, but I was very interested in the movie because of the fact that it had some great adult actors, including Viola Davis, Jeremy Irons, and probably one of the best performances of the year, even though it was so minor, and that's another thing that really upset me, which was Emmy Rossum from Shameless. But the movie itself is terrible. It's poorly acted, poorly written, except for the adult characters in the film. And let's not also forget the great Emma Thompson, who was so good in this movie. But because of the fact that the movie all around was so horrible, and especially with the main characters, there's not going to be any more Castor Chronicle movies. Number 9 is Dune. That is one of the most boring books I've ever read in my whole life. So boring that I never finished it. And the movie is just as terrible. If this is supposed to be one of the greatest science fiction series of all time, how could you not try and at least make the movie better than the book? You failed, and you failed miserably. And there were more books after the regular Dune, which is mind-boggling to me considering how much I hated the original book. Let's face it, I'm hoping there's no more Dunes. No more Dunes, please. I want this to be a Dune-free nation. Number 8, a CGI animated movie. It is Zack Snyder's Legend of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole. When I saw the trailer, the music of 30 Seconds to Mars with the digitally animated owls, it looked beautiful. Those birds looked so freaking real. Also throw in actors like Jim Sturgis, David Wenham, and Jeffrey Rush, and you got a great potential for a very good movie. It failed miserably. And I was really upset about that because it looked so good. Now, this is also a pretty long saga, and it was said that the first film was actually the first 3 books woven into one. That's one of the good reasons why a movie will fail. If you try and condense something, it's usually not going to work. And that is why we will probably not see any more digital owls, and that also is due to the fact that the Harry Potter saga is done as well. Number 7 is the Percy Jackson series. Now, it was not as good as Harry Potter, but I loved the lightning thief. I thought it was a very cool movie. It was also the first movie where we ever saw Logan Lerman, and he went on to do movies like Fury and The Perks of Being a Wallflower, among others. It had so much potential, and I love the concept of the Greek gods. And then Sea of Monsters comes out. Oh, God, why? One, why did you wait so long? And two, why did you rush to make a movie which wasn't good in the first place? This book series is fantastic. It also has a sequel series, and yet you couldn't try and put any effort into making a perfect transition to film. What a pity. There will be no more Percy Jacksons, at least for a very long while. Number 6 is Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. Now that's a 13-book series and there's only been one movie. And I was really excited to see this movie because it looked like a Tim Burton movie and Jim Carrey was in it, and Jim Carrey hadn't been in a comedic role, especially something that was geared towards a family film, and I really enjoyed his performance, especially the fact that there were also people like Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep in this movie, but the movie failed on so many levels because it was just so out of whack and confusing. I mean, maybe if a different director got to the helm, maybe it would have been a better movie, but unfortunately it didn't work, and there will be no more Series of Unfortunate Events. Maybe that's a good thing, but who knows. Number 5 is the Inheritance Saga, but you probably know the movie Eragon. Now, I love a good story about dragons. I mean, I love Game of Thrones, but this was a movie gone horribly wrong. Now, I haven't read the books, but I've heard that the series of 4 is fantastic, and the fact that this was one of the more popular book series at the time, oh geez, this was so much potential gone horribly wrong. Number 4. A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the 5-part trilogy. I mean, maybe it's because of the fact that the movie was miscast, or maybe it was because of the fact that they made some major changes to the story, or maybe it's just because of the fact that a transition from book to film, especially a story with such quick wit and imagery that you can only see on the pages of a book, it's just too difficult. I mean, me personally, I didn't like the casting. I thought that Arthur Dent and Ford Prefect would have been so much funnier if they had casted Hugh Grant and Jim Carrey. Now, Sam Rockwell and Zooey Deschanel and even Alan Rickman voicing Marvin the Robot, that was good, but I really wasn't sold on Martin Freeman and Mos Def. I mean, I love Martin Freeman. He's Bilbo, for crying out loud. He's in some of my favorite Edgar Wright movies, but it just didn't work. I wanted this movie to be so good because it had the potential to be so good, but we're never going to see 4 more of these movies, and I would have loved to have seen The Restaurant at the End of the Universe just so I could see a CGI cow asking them to eat it. I mean, that would have just been hilarious. Number 3 is a different twist. It's actually graphic novels, and it's The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the Alan Moore novels. Now, I loved this movie, even though so many people hate it up and down. But this was Sean Connery's last movie, and this is the worst way to end your career. And I believe he ended his career because he thought that this was going to be the next big franchise because he turned down an even bigger franchise beforehand, and this movie unfortunately did not do well with the public. Now, I loved it. Again, I thought it was a fun movie. I own that movie. It's right over here in my collection. Now, they're planning on rebooting this franchise. I mean, I'm not going to hold my breath because I preferred the one with Sean Connery and all the other actors that they got to play these iconic literature characters. It was really cool to see them in a superhero/steampunk kind of movie, but even though I did see this movie twice in the box office, it didn't help much. Number 2 is the His Dark Materials saga. The movie, The Golden Compass, I enjoyed. I thought it was very deep, very thought-provoking. I always appreciate the concept of the alternate reality, but this movie was kind of confusing to the general public. I mean, it had a great cast. Daniel Craig, Freddie Highmore, Ian McKellen, Sam Elliott, and of course Nicole Kidman. It was a really cool concept, but for a general consensus, I could see where it would miss for a lot of different people. And because of that, the following 2 books will not be turned into films. And it's a terrible thing because this movie was one of those few that had a true amount of potential. And the number 1 probably had the most potential, and that is the Chronicles of Narnia. It got to 3 movies, for crying out loud. Granted, it did switch filmmaking companies, but we have to really look at the facts here. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader is not a good book. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and Prince Caspian are fantastic. And, of course, the others are good, too. Not necessarily The Magician's Nephew. I'm not the biggest fan, but these books are good as a whole. Just because of the fact that one part of the story is just boring and not really as epic as the other two does not necessarily mean you gotta cut it. You gotta tell the whole story. And at this point in time, I don't believe it's going to be continued, especially because they were trying to continue it. I saw on IMDb they were trying to make The Magician's Nephew. They were trying to make The Silver Chair. But at this point in time, I don't believe it's happening. And it's a pity, too. I own all 3 of the Narnia films. They're all the way up there. And I really do enjoy them. But yes, I can see where The Voyage of the Dawn Treader would miss because the story itself is just not strong enough to carry a great movie. So that's my 10 for 12, guys, on... So I appreciate the fact that Bre Faucheux is going to be doing this with me. I'm looking forward to seeing what your 10 are, and I thank you all for watching. Please feel free to put comments in the box below, and I'll see you in the next one. Actions speak louder than words.